afternoon, good evening, and good morning to all the participants across the world attending this virtual conference. It's my deep honor and a deep privilege to moderate a session on most impactful theme, and which is known as cold chain shipping, storage, and last mile delivery for the COVID vaccine. I must say that we couldn't have had better panel than this. Today, the panelists will share their insights on various nuances of cold chain shipping, storage, and last mile delivery. I would now request each one of the panelists to introduce themselves briefly. So over to Rahul.
Good morning, everybody. Of course, good afternoon, good evening for those at different time zones. I am Rahul Agarwal from Coolex Cold Chain Limited. We work extensively with the pharma companies in India for distribution of their temperature control products, and happy to be part of this panel. Thank you, Vishal.
Sure. Thank you, Rahul. Over to Masanari.
Hi, this is Masanari Arai, CEO of Keep Corporation. Key is providing Internet of Things based platform, and our focus right now is cold chain monitoring in India. We have a customer in India like Guba is using our technology for all of their facility, and so that's Key Corporation focus. And at the end of the day, we really want to reduce waste and destroy of the products, in this case, vaccine.
Thank you, Masanari. Over to Mahesh.
Yeah, greetings, everyone. Delighted to be part of this panel. I'm Mahesh Balgat. I am the Chief Operating Officer for Syngene. We are a CRO and a CDMO focused to work on many different areas in terms of technologies and sectors, but primarily, of course, in the biotech and the pharmaceuticals area, with facilities to deal with both biomanufacturing as well as small molecule manufacturing. I come from an industry background of being in the vaccine industry for 10 years and biotech industry overall for about 20 years.
Thank you. Manish, please take away.
Thanks, Vishal. First of all, pleasure to be on this panel. I'm Manish Sanghai. I am a Senior Director for the Laboratory Solutions Division at Thermo Fisher Scientific, and we as a company focus on providing laboratory solution services to the entire pharma, academia, and industrial segment. Today, we'll be focusing on what we can and how we can contribute in the fight against pandemic with our cold storage solutions. So happy to be part of the panel, Vishal.
Thank you. Last not the least, we have Dr. Ravetkar from Serum Institute. Over to you, Dr. Ravetkar.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Ravetkar from Serum Institute of India. I work in Serum Institute for a very small period of 48 years. And I've been the student of, vaccinology right from beginning, and even today also. I look forward to a lot of learning from this August gathering today we have in this beautiful webinar. And, I had a pleasure right from working from the launching of the first vaccine in Serum Institute till today, till the COVID vaccine going on now.
Incredible.
Yeah. So I will start speaking on the cold chain shipping, storage, and last mile delivery. Of course, this is not really my forte, but I will, being in the line for so many years, I will try to share my experiences and views on this. And, this is the last stage because I've been mainly associated in manufacturing and testing of vaccine. But nevertheless, I have worked in, thanks to our chairman, Dr. Poonawalla, and our CEO, Mr. Adar Poonawalla. I have worked in almost all the areas, so I can speak on this. I think this cold chain shipping, storage, and last mile delivery is more talked about. But luckily, as Dr. Renu Swarup explained in the morning, this is very well established in our country, because I think India is not only hub for manufacturing, but also uh, the vaccination program in India is also uh, implemented by Government of India efficiently. The latest example was that MR vaccine, which was done last year. It was a beautiful campaign done by Government of India, covering children up to certain age with the MR vaccine. Can I have next slide? Yeah. Now, regarding the vaccine quality and the cold chain, the cold chain is, as you know, is last in the process, as we said just now. But it is very important process, because ultimately the cold chain is the one which is delivering the vaccine in a uh, assigned storage temperature, which of course depends on the uh, stability studies and also the storage temperature of the vaccine. And so it depends on, in case of corona, as you know, there are various technologies. I'm very happy that a lot of technologies, even the old till latest technologies, which are not having any vaccine in the market, like RNA vaccine, are also being tried. So I think there are advantages and disadvantages like any other thing, of course, in all the technologies. But nevertheless, we will have some solution. It is not a which solution, and it is not a which company which comes out first or rather second. I think it is a, I look at a long term, in a broader view of serving the human mankind. That has been always my view. And, this is a, what I call as a philanthropic business. So vaccine is we are all in a philanthropic business. So we should be all proud of this business. And to assure the product quality of the vaccine, cold chain is a complex biological process, and ensuring consistent safety and efficacy of a vaccine has long recognized as an essential element in successful program, disease control program. And, efficacy of the vaccine, mainly efficacy, depends on the storage temperature. And we have seen now, as we are discussing, this webinar is more focused on corona. So we are speaking about corona. Uh, so if we see, there are various vaccines coming which are requiring storage at 2 to 8. And also there are some vaccines which are requiring minus 20, as uh, our friend explained just now about Sputnik. Then there are some vaccine like RNA vaccine which are more unstable but very fast in development, uh, requiring minus 70. So all that makes this little complex. But I think can I have next slide?
Dr. Radvitkar, you have about 3 minutes to go with your presentation.
Yeah, I know. Good, you reminded, of course, because I got a habit of speaking. So
you have 50 minutes to complete our task.
Yeah, and second most important thing in this is cold chain is a complex process, and we'll have to have more training of the people. And I think, as I said, the cold chain in India is very well established, and because of the vaccination program, and Government of India is also, we get feelers from the market. In fact, we are also talking to government to if there any help required from our side. And we are in constant touch with the EPA officers in Maharashtra, in other parts of the country also. And what I found, there are about 41 centers of main depots, which are regional or state-wise, which are having enough cold rooms, and Government of India has also issued a notification to them to gear up for the, more cold rooms for storage of vaccine. Next slide.
I think you have already shared the nuances of this
Yeah.
slide.
Yeah.
The next one.
And yeah, no, it's, an effective cold chain relies on three main, that is storage of vaccine, then also the accurate vaccine inventory, and also the uh, uh, break in the cold chain. We can't afford at this stage. I was just talking to Vishal other day, because at, of course, any stage, any vaccine, any stage, but more so in this case of COVID vaccine, because if every day and every drop is important. So I think break in a cold chain we cannot afford. But I think what we can do is, government is definitely geared up, because that's, as I said, that's the fillers we are getting. And also we have been talking to the people, but they should also have some mock trials done, so that uh, either of the vaccines, whichever comes, uh, should have more efficiency in distribution. And I think what I personally feel with so many years experience, initially when we launched vaccine about 50 years back, see, that time there was no uh, talk studies or phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, until nobody has died. So I think we are making more issue. That's my personal opinion, which I can be wrong also. I'm telling you very candidly, but I think the vaccine always has got benefits, more benefits than the disease itself. And in case of COVID, the deaths that are happening, if you see the Delhi's case yesterday, I think we should launch vaccine yesterday. And I don't see any problem of any company's vaccine, because it has gone through the tox studies, it has gone to the ferret trials, it has gone to the phase 1 and phase 2. I think we are personally, as I'm again repeating, I may be wrong, but I think we are making more issue and more fuss about phase 3 and all these trials. All vaccines are efficacious, and they will definitely control the disease. Only question is the day we launch, and it is a requirement of yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ravitker, for setting the tone for the panel discussion. Challenges from manufacturing to cold chain, shipping to storage to last mile delivery. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. Let me start the panel discussion by stating few facts in front of each one of us to understand this unprecedented challenge in India's preparedness for a policy framework to immunize 1.3 billion people. And I think all the challenges have already been spoken in before panels. I can just reiterate: vaccine production, pricing, distribution, cold chain infrastructure, human resource. I think this all can be addressed by the active participation of all the stakeholders through the public and partnership consortium. Now, may I invite each of my panelists to share their views on how to mitigate challenges of vaccine supply chain disruption in pandemic times, as it is well known that the 30% of the vaccines in the normal times are destroyed due to the disruptions. So what can we do to avoid such disruptions which used to happen pre-pandemic? So I invite Rahul to set the stage.
Thank you, Vishal. See, the most important factor here is that there needs to be a proper planning of the networks. So while you have, and as mentioned in some of the earlier panel discussions, they spoke about how the distribution channel in India works. You would have the primary storage point, and then then on the secondary point, and then the last point where the immunization would actually take place. And it's very important for the government to sort of engage the existing stakeholders, the pharma companies, as well as the logistics service providers in, sort of correctly mapping the requirement in terms of the type of warehouses required, the storage sizes, the temperatures, because we are seeing products with multiple temperature ranges, the sizes of the reefer vehicles required, the capacity in the air which is required for air shipments, what kind of passive coolants are required, what kind of tertiary storage facilities are required, and then of course the most important leg, which is the actual immunization and the collection of data post immunization in terms of the the after behavioral effects of the patients once the immunization takes place. So it's a question of mapping the process right. We in India already have some bit of facility and some bit of infrastructure available out there. Immunization programs have been going on for years, so it's not that this is happening for the first time. uh, so this is a global level pandemic, and there is a time to for the product to reach the market, which is what is creating more panic because of so much of media attention. But just to mention a quick point, when we had the the AIDS program going on, and product took a much larger longer time to sort of come on road, unlike the corona vaccine, which we are hopeful to see coming on road by in less than a year's time. At that time, I think the product took almost a decade to come on road. So we are much better off than what we were in the earlier times, and we are seeing a lot of companies, a lot of people putting in all their muscle and might to sort of bring this product quickly on road. And I think the right kind of planning will help us create the best of infrastructure and the timely and sort of efficient rollout, which would help sort of reduce the losses in transit with the handling losses, the temperature excursion losses, and the related factors. Thanks.
So Manish, would you like to add on the dimensions that Rahul shared, considering that you have storage solutions?
Sure, Vishal. I think continuing to what Rahul said, the WHO and CDC have come up with very clear guidelines on the usage of purpose-built cold storage equipment to minimize wastage. And to that point, over the past 60 years, Thermo Fisher has provided hospitals, clinics, and pharmacies with the tools they need to deliver every vaccine at the full strength and efficacy. And that obviously starts with the right cold storage. We have purpose-built refrigerators from 2 to 8, 20 to 40, or minus 86 that are designed in compliance with CDC, WHO, and NSF guidelines, especially for vaccine storage. And Thermo Fisher has been a front runner in adopting cleaner technologies such as CFC and HCFC-free refrigerants, complying with the SNAP guidelines. I think other than the right cold storage equipment usage, what also is important is monitoring the real-time temperature, enabling vaccine stability up to last delivery. And I think Masanari's son will speak more to it. But I would just like to end by saying that in terms of mRNA vaccines, my personal opinion is that the infrastructure of the minus 70 cold storage equipment is relatively low in India. And we need to start building that capacity now in order to be ready once the vaccines are out in the market.
I couldn't agree more with you. I think the time to take action is now. And minus 70 is going to be, I think it's going to be unprecedented challenge. Yeah. So let me move to the other question for other panelists now. So we know that there are multiple vaccines which are coming with different temperature requirements. So how does one prepare in such an ever-changing environment? So over to Mahesh.
Yeah, hi. So I think you've caught on a very important topic. Let's just look at the complexities that come in from this dimension of the number of vaccines that are there and the differences that they have, and how it boils down to challenges in supply chain, and how it boils down to challenges in administration, and really the last mile work, right? Even if we just take the three that are most talked about, the Moderna, the Gamaleya, and the Pfizer vaccine. And then, of course, we know we have the Indian vaccines that are also following very closely behind. They all have different storage conditions. They all have different schedules of administration potentially. They even have complexities of a different vial that needs to be administered for the first dose versus the second dose. So all of these are really strong logistical challenges that we need to prepare for, and therefore need to have really strong distribution systems, strong monitoring channels, strong data collection channels. And at the end of the day, all of this needs to be administered in the background of what we are talking about for something that would be suitable at the scale of India, which is a 1.3 billion population. So, we obviously need the infrastructure to make all of this happen, and we have experts who've just talked about some of the logistical components and the solutions that can be brought into consideration for that. We then have the data collection components of it, for which again we have folks working on providing those channels of collecting data, monitoring it. What we additionally need, and this is what we need to think about in terms of specifically the COVID challenges, we need to think about supply chain, not just ending with, sorry, let's see. Okay, let's see, maybe it's better. Okay, good. So, we need to consider that our supply chain challenges don't simply end with giving the vaccination shot to the person. We need to consider it as it doesn't even end after giving the second shot in case of a 2-dose vaccine. It actually is then also looking at the effectiveness of that vaccine, the vaccine performance assessment, as we would call it, because that is something that we still are working with minimum amount of data in terms of protection, in terms of longevity of protection, plus any degradation or any changes or any effectiveness issues that may have happened due to the vaccine during transit, which is not something that we understood because of our own supply chain. So what that translates into is the need to have good testing potentials, good testing facilities, good awareness of how the vaccine needs to be treated at the last mile. And for the testing components, there are two components that I want to talk about more from a technical perspective. One is to assess the vaccine itself, whether or not it was still safe, and what are the tests that can be performed for those right just before administration, if any, to be able to make sure that the dose that is being provided is the right and the efficacious dose. Then the second is with regards to the performance assessment after to check for immunity buildup. And that's where, again, the capabilities and the scientific horsepower needs to put in so that we start to utilize the assays that are there, not just for antibody measurements, but also then for T-cell response measurements, because we know it's a combination of both of these that need to be brought in, after which we can say, yes, we know that we delivered the vaccine safely, we know that the vaccine was effective and led to the protection.
Great, Mahesh. I think you brought a very important point of testing. And I think because testing will happen, and that's where we will be able to maximize on the impact that actually immunization program would like to do. So I think this is a very important dimension that you brought. Thank you so much for bringing that. Now over to, let me turn to Masanari. Masanari is a CEO of a tech company based, backed by Cisco Ventures. So how do you plan, Masanari, to actually integrate this challenge that we've been talking about, that India has in front of us? And there's a clear need to provide scalable, reliable, real-time monitoring solution, which can track the temperature till last mile delivery, including managing unforeseen circumstances, which we know will happen, And so I would really request you to share your views on this unique challenge and the opportunity that you're working on.
Yes, thank you for great introduction for my conversation. And as Manish and also Dr. Swart mentioned in keynote, digitalization is really, really key for monitoring. And I want to mention a couple of things to enable those digitalization. First of all, right now the monitoring is implemented very, very isolated way, and so you cannot really do end-to-end. That means manufacturing to actual hospital and those kind of endpoint. Monitoring is not really happening. It is really, really important to onboard all of those implementation, sensor implementation for the monitoring into one platform. Those are really important. So you can see entire cold chain. That's number one. Number two is, as you mentioned, real time is really important. And why it's real time is important is when something happen, temperature excursion happen, you want to take immediate action. So when something happen, then it's received real time, and then you take a real time action so you can fix it. So that's another important things. And then because of this is massive, scalability, we are talking enabling, cold chain asset, facility is really, really challenging because number of the, facility you have to monitor is really huge. And so if you talk about like a very expensive platform to enable those kind of like each asset, it's not gonna happen. So I believe to make this scalability happen, the cost of each monitoring is really, really important. And then those kind of like, sensor device, it's a really becoming really cheap right now. And also connectivity is becoming cheap. So connecting those kind of like a cheap sensor into one single platform, then you can see entire view.
I can imagine the disruption that you're trying to bring. This is really, really encouraging. So I think it's time to move to Rahul. Rahul, being a managing director of one of the leading cold chain logistics company in India. And I think they've been doing this for 30 years, and they have, you name a company, a customer in the pharma industry, especially on the cold chain side, they have it. And Rahul, how do you plan to address this challenge, which we could never imagine? To provide a scalable, reliable cold chain logistics and associated infrastructure, keeping last mile delivery challenges in your view, considering the COVID-19 vaccines. I think it's difficult to imagine, but we still need to prepare. So over to you, Rahul.
Thanks, Vishal. So, see, we've been doing vaccine transportation or handling for a long time now. So when you look at products in the +228 temperature or -20 degrees, that's something we've been doing for quite a while. And we have the right tech available, in terms of like, as Masanari-san was mentioning about the, end-to-end connectivity of these sensors, on a common platform. So we've been doing that already, since the last 8-9 years. We have that software available which integrates the data points into one platform and can give you a, complete journey report, irrespective of the, interim changes that take place in the, distribution of a vaccine or any biological products which require the temperature control. So this is being done. Yes, there's definitely a question mark or a challenge in terms of India's capabilities on the -70 products, which is, the Pfizer vaccines that have been spoken about. But as the world evolves, if we can come out with the COVID vaccine in such a short period, as I mentioned earlier, and I'm sure we can also come out with the solution to handle those products.
This is your optimism.
It's a matter of, again, I think it's collective coordination where, you use the best technologies from the world and bring it onto a common platform, because this is a global problem, right? It's not just about India or about any other country. Everyone needs to solve this, sort of puzzle, that how would we handle the
One has to be selfish at this point.
Yeah, but you see, even Pfizer has got a plan, I'm sure, in terms of how they would, sort of distribute this across the various countries. And, if there was a question mark in, the capability of doing it, they wouldn't have really, sort of gone ahead and come out with this product at this range. So yes, 228 and -20 is a doable option. It exists in India also. The government has been doing it. The private sector has been doing it. We see a lot of food logistic companies who are now volunteering to sort of come into this whole pharma game and try and handle the COVID vaccine. And yes, while there may be some compliance challenges that they may have, but today I think India needs all the infrastructure that is available to be pulled into one common platform. And I think it should be the prerogative of the government to drive this platform, because that's how sort of you would have a smoother transition into this model, and you would have a more visible and compliant sort of rollout, rather than doing it company wise individually. And
Sure. So Rahul, there's an add-on which is what worked and what hasn't worked in your opinion, very crisply, if you can share.
So I think, I mean, if you look at the India immunization program, what hasn't worked has started working now, because the government has learned over the years, so I won't say what, so there are learnings from what hasn't worked. now the government is talking of IVANs, and so they are talking about serialization in the pharma industry in terms of probably using technologies like blockchain for monitoring.
Track and trace.
They are concerned about the counterfeiting, where the serialization also takes place, care of the counterfeiting, which is alarmingly, I think more than 10% of the total medicines sold in most countries, including the US. You have counterfeiting even in other highly developed countries. So it's a challenge. And
Yes.
that's why these technologies and that's why these common infrastructures will help sort of mitigate those challenges. And I think India is very well equipped to handle that. People are willing to build the infrastructure. A little bit of push and drive is needed from the government side, and that would probably sort of nail the problem at hand.
Great. So I'll come back to you again. So Manish, Thermo Fisher, as your organization, is one of the largest biosupplier in the world. How would your organization contribute to solve the problem of cold storage in India and associated supplies in hand?
So, Vishal, very relevant question for the current times. And if I start with the Pfizer vaccine, which needs minus 70 degrees cold storage, we have extensive range of freezers and ultra low temperature equipments which can help the team store. And these are very high technology driven products which have variable speed compressors and compressor free refrigerator systems, which would provide very low vibration and very high temperature stability. And they also follow the green technology guidelines from SNAP and have got CFC free refrigerants. In terms of the 228 and minus 20, also we have a very, very extensive range of equipments which can help. And I think what I have seen at times is the hospitals and the clinics resort to the general purpose refrigerators, which leads to an unnecessary wastage of vaccines because the efficacy of the vaccine can be lost in a very short span of time if not stored at the right designated temperature. And then it's very, very important that the entire value chain from the manufacturing location to the last mile administrative site follows the right type of cold storage equipment. And that also complements what Rahul was suggesting, that having that knowledge across the value chain is very, very important.
Absolutely. So let me turn to Mahesh. Mahesh, you being the Chief Operating Officer of a largest CDMO and CRO for biologics. And I'm sure you have some recommendations, some solutions, some suggestions to make to address this challenge, So over to you, Mahesh.
Yeah, and I think I think we should look at this overall supply chain challenge both from a logistical and a technical issue. And we've talked about some of the logistical things. On the technical side, what we also need to look at is in India, we have large manufacturing capabilities and capacities. And one of the things that Rahul mentioned is, let's look at industries that have been looking at repurposing and offering solutions for this challenge, such as the food industry. Similarly, we need to look at all of our biomanufacturing capacities and capabilities within the country, and especially with CMOs like us, to see what can be used for manufacturing those same vaccines in India by partnering with the innovators, so that we significantly, one, increase the availability of those vaccines here. Second, bring down the high cost of shipping vaccines at minus 20 or minus 70 degrees. Because we know that not only is supply going to be a challenge from a capacity perspective, but it's also going to be a challenge from the transport perspective. We just heard earlier, some on the order of some 800,000 crates vaccines that will need to be shipped. And these are astounding numbers, which we need to break down the problem into saying, what can we do even on use of local manufacturing capacity? And that's where I think one of the places where the local CMOs and local manufacturing needs to be brought in, and I think these are doing and working through.
Couldn't agree more, Mahesh. So it's time for me to turn to Dr. Ravedkar. He's been patient. Thank you, Dr. Ravedkar, for being so patient with us. So, you are one of the top techno-commercial professors that I've known in last 10 years with my experience with you. And I think, as you said, that you're a student of vaccinology for about 48 years. So that's a very humble statement coming from you, sir. I'm very, very encouraged, to know you as a person. And but I do feel that, with your background, definitely there is some suggestions that you can make to ensure that the last mile delivery at scale, which is never imagined. And I think all of us spoke about the scale, which actually nobody imagined before. So are there any practical suggestions that you think will need to be implemented, and the time to take those actions and make recommendations is now? And I think I would like your words, to be really, really very effective. And we will do our best to see how it could be, channelized to the relevant stakeholders.
So, thanks for the kind words you said about me. But nevertheless, this problem, uh, India, as I said, is well advanced in this in technology also. I have seen we have got a cold refrigerated vans which deliver in India, which have got a GPS and cloud computing and AI. So we are already that in place. We are also working on a traditional packaging as well as isothermal packaging. And as Serum Institute, is exporting to more than 160 countries. We are well versed with all CDC norms and all international norms of delivery. And I personally feel after reviewing, India is in a good position uh, to deliver the vaccine. The system is well established. Only thing, as I said during my speech, they should do some mock trials as if vaccine they are going to distribute today. Then that mock always surfaces a lot of problems in the issue. Like cold storage is not there, or it is short. Because this time it is going to be a little different situation, because all vaccine will come from various companies at same time, and we have to immunize so many people at the unimaginable speed. Every time it is a different, it is spread over so many months or uh, things like that, whereas this time it is going to be short time. So the program efficiency, efficacy of the program is very important. The vaccine shouldn't stay in a cold storage for a long. It should be implemented. It should come and move. So all that logistics.
I think you said the relevant point, and it's time for me to, move to Masanari, because
Yeah.
you mentioned about, solutions based on IoT. And Masanari, if you could just let us give crisp feedback about, what can be the learnings from your experience working with other countries, how India could win from there. How can India leverage from the solutions that you are actually working upon and you have worked upon?
Yeah, again, this again, I'm always talking about the platform, but for having like a lots of experience from India, for example, and because India rolled out massively at the beginning, and then it is very, very important to collecting the data from those kind of experience. And sometimes like, some problems happen. And if you have data, you understand, you predict before it's happened. So, those kind of data should shared by worldwide. So, not only like, Japan has unique experience, US have a unique experience, India has unique experience. At the end of the day, all of experience is asset for the human being. So from that viewpoint, data play, again, collecting everything into a single platform and playing that data plus AI is going to be like a key to expedite this entire thing.
Thank you so much for those insights. And before I end the panel discussion and invite the questions from audience, we've received lots of questions from chat in the chat box as advised by my colleague. But would like each one of you to make a single liner suggestion or a recommendation to the government towards preparedness of the robust framework of last mile delivery. And as I said, the time is now. So just one liner in conclusion from each one of you. So I can see Dr. Ravedkar in my frame first. So over to you, Dr. Ravedkar.
Yeah, thanks. As I said, do the mock as if we are going to distribute vaccine today.
Wonderful, wonderful. Audit is important. Internal
Yeah.
audit, great. Rahul, last line.
No, I think it's just the proper planning that is needed, and to utilize the right infrastructure to pick and choose the right players to sort of run this whole show, and we should be on track.
Yeah, and time is now.
Yep.
Masanari, final words from you.
Yeah, I'm keep repeating. So, having a single platform, digital platform, and also, collecting data is really, really important. And that's
Just can't manage without technology. I think that's what you said, and it's so
right.
well captured. Great, Mahesh. Final points from you.
Yeah, I would build on all of this, which is to say that let's have the platform to make sure that we know where the vaccine came from, where it went, and that it was finally effective. So to cover everything from manufacturing, batch numbers, patient information, to finally that yes, actually there was a response that was generated so that people know they're actually safe.
Wonderful. That's very holistic. Thank you. Last not the least, Manish.
Vishal, I would just say that my suggestion would be that government should come out with a very clear guidelines on purpose-built cold storage. So to your point, Pfizer had to procure 300 plus freezers in UK and US for the -70 vaccine, and it will not be easy to procure them in short term. So again, to your point, time is now. We need to have these guidelines and procurement plans initiated right away.
Thank you so much, my wonderful panelist, for sharing your wonderful insights. I learned a lot, and I'm sure my audience would have also. And now it's time to segue to the Q&A from the audience. And we have received two questions in advance. And the first question is, are there any cold chain logistic providers building the capacity of freezers to meet the demand for vaccination of the entire population? I think this can be addressed by Rahul and Manish. Rahul, over to you quickly.
Sure. So I think portable storage solutions is the key for this sort of program, because as of now the geographies have not yet been finalized. Where the tertiary storage would take place, and we have developed not only just the portable cold rooms which are at -20, but also the packing solutions which we are expected to launch in the next 2 to 3 days. And surprisingly, we have been able to achieve a 96-hour shelf life with these passive coolants.
Okay.
At -20.
And at what temperature?
-20.
Oh, that's brilliant.
We've crossed about 90 hours as we speak. The validations are going on, and I think this product should be available for demo on Monday or Tuesday. And I think this would bring a lot of change about in the whole availability process.
Do you think this could actually be extended to -80 with a little bit of incremental innovation?
Well, there are some trials and R&Ds going on, but at this stage it looks a little difficult. But then, as I said, nothing is impossible. You can always.
I'm sure our friend from Thermo Fisher can collaborate with you to expedite this. What do you say, Manish?
Absolutely, would love to do that.
Great. So that's wonderful. So we have a second question, which says that what is the government plan for vaccine delivery logistics so that private players can look for most efficient way of transportation, building prototype, and get the same certified? I think it's a kind of the same question which was earlier addressed. Maybe if any one of you wants to add to supplement views, what Rahul shared beautifully, please feel free to pick up.
I'll take that, Vishal. I think in terms of infrastructure, we have around 27,000 cold chain points in India, which effectively serves 390 million doses and 60 million people. So in my opinion, the infrastructure we need is much more than what we have now. And across the entire logistic team, we'll have to start planning for it now. So the question is very pertinent, and I think there's need for faster action than what we're taking today.
Wonderful. I think it's time to pause, and I thank each of my fellow panelists for their wonderful insights and audience for patient hearing. And it's time to say bye, and I hand over stage back to my host, that's Dr. Nidhi. Thank you, Dr. Nidhi, for the opportunity. Over to you.